Greetings internet viewers, it's your old pal Oxleymations here again with another Oxleymations presentation. Now for today's video, I felt it was finally time to talk about my little buddy Richard here. Yes, I'm aware that I said that I would make this video last month, which would be January of 2026 for those watching this in the future, but I've been dealing with some, shall we say, motivational issues as of late, so sorry, I guess? To get things started, I'd like to begin with retelling the story of just how Mr. Phipps here came into my possession. It was during a random weekday around the beginning of 2025 when I was doing my usual, and at the time borderline obsessive, marketplace searching for ventriloquist figures during a break at work. I was combing through all the listings of various puppets that I've either seen before or already have in the collection, as you can see behind me. And amongst all the Charlie McCarthy's, Danny O'Days, and Howdy Doodies, I spotted a listing for our buddy here. Now at first when I saw the listing, I was really excited about it because it wasn't just another of the usual puppets I see being sold so often. For one thing, it's not just another doll with a string coming out of the back of the neck like our little friend Knucklehead here. And for another thing, he actually has a wig on his head, instead of being the usual painted, sculpted hair that I see so often, like on our buddy Jerry here. So even though Buddy here was a little bit more than I was comfortable with spending at the time, I asked the seller if they would be willing to ship him to me, as the seller lived several states away. Initially, they were a bit hesitant as they were not set up to receive online payments, at which point I came to the conclusion that it was a lost cause, since so many other sellers that I've talked to on the old marketplace would usually tell me that they weren't willing to ship because of that issue. I thanked the guy for responding and wished them good luck with their sales, as I usually do, as you do, yep, and then headed back to work. Imagine my surprise when, during my next break several hours later, I go back onto my phone and I find a message from the guy asking if I would be willing to send a check. Obviously I told them that I was, and we worked out a deal. Some silly shenanigans followed due to my lack of knowledge in sending checks in the mail, but in the end, the guy got his money, for which I have the receipt right here, and I got my puppet. In a way, I'm actually grateful that things worked out the way that they did, because it gave me a feel for what it must have been like all the way back in 1995 when you'd order one of these figures. That delayed gratification of sending off the check and having to wait for the item you paid for to arrive in the mail was like waiting for Christmas morning and going trick-or-treating rolled into one. When I first purchased this figure, I knew nothing about him aside from how much the guy on Facebook Marketplace wanted for him. I also wasn't aware at the time, but the then unnamed Richard Phipps here would lead me to some interesting discoveries. Like what? Well, I'm glad you asked, Rich. One such discovery being that the man who built you not only built puppets for purchase by the general public, but would also provide figures for use in movies and television, and even made figures for Disney. You're kidding. No, I'm dead serious. It took a lot of digging through the internet for me to find the information for this video, so hopefully it will be of interest to you, if it isn't already. Right. And if it isn't already at this point, why are you still watching? Anyway, this little guy was created back in the year 1995 by a figure maker named Craig Lovik. Or Lovik, that's right, it could be Lovik. We tried reaching out to his son thanks to Facebook, but he never quite got back to us on the proper pronunciation, so I'm going to be pronouncing it both ways, just so you know for the rest of the video. Anyway, Mr. Lovik, or Lovik, worked for a puppet distributor called Maher Studios from the mid-1960s through to around when this little fellow was created, as a reminder, 1995, which interestingly is also the same year that he retired and handed his puppet building business over to his son. He did. He really did. The year you were created. Wow. I must truly lead the last. Indeed. When Richard Phipps here was first being sold, he was available through the Lovik, or Lovik, world website, which would later become Amazing Puppets, and after the name change, they stopped selling him for some reason. Regardless, when he was being sold on the website, he was being sold under the name Buddy, as well as being sold as Jimmy at the same time, because, for whatever weird reason, they were trying to sell this figure as twins. No, that wasn't a typo. They were trying to sell this figure, this design, as twins. Literally, what's the word I'm looking for here? Not conjoined, obviously. The one where they look alike. I can't think of the word right now. Identical. Yes, he was trying to sell them as identical twins. Thank you. You're welcome. One of us has to do the brains of this outfit. You mean my outfit or yours? Anyway, he was being sold as two puppets at the same time. You would only be buying one puppet, but it would either be Buddy or Jimmy. As for why it is they were trying to sell this guy as two different figures, I'm not sure. But thanks to the Internet Archive, we can take a look at the original products page from 1996, and y'all can see exactly what I'm talking about.
Buddy. He is just a nice guy. Buddy has a twin brother named Jimmy who looks just like him. In fact, we cannot tell them apart. They are both such good-looking guys that we decided to run the $179 special on both of them. He is living proof that nice guys do not always finish last. He is a charming young man who just loves to talk. He just has to know about everything, and the more you tell him, the more questions he thinks to ask. Both Buddy and Jimmy's attitudes are so positive that you cannot get mad at them for asking questions, although some of their questions make you wonder where he goes to school. For instance, both Buddy and Jimmy asked me, "Where do you get dry water to make dry ice?"
I find it interesting that the listing from that website contradicts itself, because if you go back and look closely at the top of the screenshot there, it says that the offer is on Buddy only. But then the text below that says that both Buddy and Jimmy are being sold for that price. Also, on the page where you'd purchase these figures, Jimmy is listed for sale there instead of Buddy, even though the text above it still reads Buddy and Pals. If that was some kind of joke they were trying to pull, that's very confusing. Indeed. Now, as I mentioned a little bit ago, Buddy's creator had figures that were featured on television, and one such show is a 1990s children's horror series, which I've mentioned on the channel before. And it might even be in the title for this very video. If you haven't guessed it by now, the show in question was Goosebumps. And in the episode Night of the Living Dummy 3, you can see not one, but two, count 'em, two, of Mr. Lovik/Lovik's figures hanging out on screen with Rocky and Slappy. Yep, just like with my little pumpkin imposter here, Buddy here has some famous relatives thanks to Goosebumps. And as a matter of fact, let's go on ahead and take a look at some screenshots of the puppets in question, shall we? That red-haired puppet, I'm almost positive, is a Buddy/Jimmy figure, whereas the other puppet in the episode was being sold as Randy. Also, just as an aside here, some of the other puppets in the episode, that Bozo the Clown, the Howdy Doody, and the Charlie McCarthy, may have also come from the Lovik World website, as these figures were being sold there as comedy classics. As for the other puppets from the episode, I'm not sure where they're from, but my best guess is that they were made to be static props to fill out the background shots of Mr. Odell's collection, since I have found proof that one of them was literally just an old mask on a random doll body. Anyway, enough about those other figures. Buddy here is who we're supposed to be focusing on today. An interesting thing to note here is that this tuxedo isn't his original outfit. In fact, I have what I believe to be his original outfit right here. So here in a second, after a little wardrobe change, we're going to see what Buddy probably would have looked like when he arrived after being purchased back in the 1990s. Here we go. And there you have it, folks. That's probably just about what he would have looked like when he originally showed up at his previous owner's place. Well, his first owner's place, I would say. Probably not the shades though. Let me just adjust the lighting so you can see him a bit better. Yeah, the visor I don't quite think is original because it's a little small. So we're just going to gently remove those. He came with 3 different outfits. That tuxedo that he's been wearing in basically every video that y'all have seen him in. And his head is moving a bit more freely because I have it unhooked from the hook inside his body. So it's not just like stuck with me doing this kind of motion. If you're wondering why he looks a lot more, you know, lithe-like, not a lot more lithe all of a sudden. One of the hardest bits of putting his clothes on, getting him back to this original outfit, are these dang little shoes. They have just the smallest spot right here. Let me pull his pant leg back a bit to get his feet in there. These things are only made out of vacuform plastic and hot glue, so that was very strenuous on the old nerves, trying to make sure those got in there without breaking. So that's outfit number 1. Well, outfit number 2, I guess. Let's move on to outfit number 3. Do we have to? Yeah, we do. Okay. And here we have outfit number 3, which is basically just this pair of red overalls with the same green shirt from the previous outfit and this cool blue and white striped conductor's cap that he's wearing now. Choo-choo! Now, another thing to note about these puppets is that they were constructed using materials that have made them rather, well, fragile with age. Like the hands here are made out of a latex rubber, which hardens over time and can become crumbly if not taken care of properly. As for their heads and torsos, they're made of a vacuform plastic, which on the one hand makes them rather nice and light and fairly easy to carry around while performing. Thank you. On the other hand, though, it is prone to breakage if handled too roughly, as evidenced by these photographs I found during my research. Another thing to mention is that there were several versions of each of these figures that one could buy, with the main alternate feature being you could get them with moving eyes as well as blinking eyelids, and also you could get them with different colored hair. My figure is the basic version that you could get at the time, and from what I learned during my research, he didn't sell too well back in the day, making him a more scarce Lovik-made puppet than his counterparts, which is apparently saying something because it took a lot of digging to find any real information on him. Anyway, here's a few pictures of what I was able to find as examples of what the moving eyes versions of these figures would have looked like. And just for funsies, here's what he looks like wearing Jerry's Christmas outfit. It actually doesn't fit him too bad. No, not really. But at the same time, I would really appreciate it if you would put me back in my tuxedo over there. You know, so I can look kind of distinguished a little bit. Alright, you got it. I just wanted to see. And I'm honestly surprised that your hands fit in the sleeves. Why are you surprised about that? Well, your hands are a couple sizes bigger than Jerry's. Okay, fair enough. Now, on with the rest of the video and getting me back into my suit. Please. Okay. As you wish. And I do. Alright, with that I think I'll wrap things up here because as of right now there really isn't too much more to be said about Buddy that I haven't already said. So with that I want to give a big thank you to each and every single one of you out there watching this presently. I do truly and greatly appreciate it. If you like what you've seen here today, y'all know the drill. Feel free to like, comment, and share this content with your friends if you think they'd like it. Also, if you're in a position where you can help out the channel, I do have a Patreon at patreon.com/Oxleymations. If you want to help out the channel but you don't want to commit to doing a Patreon, I do also have a Ko-fi, and, well, the links to both of those will be in the description for this video down below. And with all of that being said, this has been your old pal Oxleymations, and Buddy saying, viewers beware, and subscribe if you dare. Yeah.